Good morning, folks, and welcome to our first Tuesday coffee chat with Jack Spirko from the Survival Podcast, John Willis in a less 1984, more 1776 t-shirt. I'm Nicole Sauce. We call it prepping. Grandma calls it Tuesday. That was my mood today because a tornado hit Smithville and knocked out a whole bunch of stuff in my community.
Yep.
But we were ready for it. I wasn't even home. It was perfect. The best way to stay out of danger, guys, is don't be there.
Yeah, there's something to that.
Anyway, this week's going to be a fun one because John just had a Homestead Apprentice meetup at his place. He was telling us a little bit about how the weekend went. Can you just give us the skinny what happened and what were your first impressions?
Well, we didn't know what was going to happen, and we put it on hold and still said, hey, if you want to come on out, and we'll just kind of hang out and do what you guys want to do. And we didn't really know who was showing up, how many. So we had some guys on standby ready to go. Chuck Peoples did medical and tourniquet. Evan did some light radio stuff, as well as just some kind of circle, get to know each other. But really, it turned into a business incubator. And there's some dudes in there that are already doing business and have the capability to do much, much greater business or much more profit in their business. So there was a lot of that. Some trees were planted. We processed some rabbits. Man, it just went on and on. I'm sure I'm forgetting. There were some guys that had never fired guns before. Scully took them out there and they did a lot of that. Lewis was here and really got those guys just really into groups and all on target, pistol and rifle. I think there was some machine guns out there also. At least it sounded like there was some machine guns. We were doing several different things and good time.
Yep. So what was your takeaway from that as far as where Homestead Apprentice is going in the future?
Well, we're definitely going to run with it. I don't know when we're going to run with it. There was definitely some really good every one of them. And there were some very vast differences between them. We'll really see, I think, in the next few weeks, what they actually execute, because much of it is very free and it literally could be done in just a couple of hours. Same with Self-Reliance Festival. Guys come up and they're like, hey, I want to do what you do. And I'm like, cool, what's your social medias? Or, hey, I have this business. And my first question is always, how much money did you make this week? And they're like, what? It's like you slapped them. And I'm like, if you're not making money, you're not in business, you're in a hobby. And one of the dudes said, I said, how much money did you make this month? And he said, well, none. I go, then what are you doing? Like you do this, you make these products. And he said, well, I built 2 of them and I didn't, they didn't come through. I'm like, why aren't you taking deposits, non-refundable deposits? Like, why is that not a thing? If that's if you take non-refundable deposits and they don't come through, that's just profit. Now you've already built the product. Now you have something you can immediately sell. Plus you have this other money that you can immediately put back into materials. Just business incubator.
Yeah, I love it.
Just basic business concept.
I was sitting here watching that go down, wishing I was there, but at the same time needing to be here getting ready for the rest of the month, going, man.
I intentionally did not ask you to come out here because I knew that you would have been here, and I knew that you just ran multiple back-to-backs. Yeah. Dawn was here for 2 hours probably. Which was supposed to be canning light, which really was food preservation, which turned into, hey, you too can have dairy cows. And we all learned stuff about dairy cows that we didn't know anything about. I had no concept of how long you could keep a mama cow in milk without rebreeding her or fostering. Like that wasn't even on my radar, to put an Angus bull and do a meat cow and then breed her again. Dawn's real thing is the dairy cow stuff.
Yeah, and she breaks it down in a way that makes it accessible for somebody who wants to do it, like how to do it with a calf if you want to, so you don't have to milk twice a day, and some of those tricks that you can do to keep a dairy cow and not lose your mind. Although I would probably lose my mind if I had a dairy cow, which is why I don't have a dairy cow.
Yeah, herd share, and man, she is a good speaker for raw milk. Most people are not lactose intolerant; they're pasteurized milk intolerant. She's got some good one-liners in there that you're like, holy shit, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Okay, so we've gone almost 5 minutes, and Jack Spirko has not said one word, which is a new record.
I said allegedly. I did say allegedly.
You said one word.
When he said machine guns.
What's the shirt say?
It says "fuck around and find out."
Oh, I like it. Whose is that?
It's my nephew gave it to me, and it's this guy that just does all kinds of random crap. He's headquartered in Mexico, and like he runs shit like this, and then it's gone. So you should, John, you guys need to rip this off.
I'm taking a picture of it right now.
You really do, and do something cool, like more with it. All the design is it's got the graph on the front, it's got the big graph on the back. It's the exact same thing.
And get it done before Exit and Build Land Summit so I can wear it there.
Yeah. And keep going with the medallions on the shoulder, man. That really sets your shirts off.
Yeah, if you allow,
and just look better.
I used to require that, and then when I get it, if I don't ask about it, it doesn't show up. Path of least resistance.
Yeah,
I understand it.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, Jack, what's new at Spirko Damas's homestead?
Well, I almost flaked out on this coffee chat today. Fortunately, we have like the Teams thing in StreamYard, so I was getting ready for my afternoon podcast, and I'm like, "Holy shit!" And then I messaged you and said, "I might be a few minutes late, but I'll be there." Because it's been busy. I blew the drive belt for the PTO on the tractor again, so I can't mow, and it's raining every other day, so that's fun. We have chickens that look like full-grown chickens that are only half-grown because the baby Jersey Giants have turned into full-size chickens that are they're going to be massive soon, and I discovered that while they are big and fat and not very mobile when they're grown, when they're in this stage, they're like any other chicken. So I've been fighting chickens out of the garden. And because I like go out to the garden. I'm like, why is this all fucked up? This doesn't look like pest damage. And they're up in there. So I started going out like, this is something you can know about chickens with your garden. Terrify them. Chicken terrorism is what's been going on. So I send the kids out like every 30 minutes to check and see if they're back there. And I have a PVC pipe and one of my big arches. We just beat the shit out of it and start screaming, "Run for your lives, chicken! Run for your lives!" And it seems like the last 3 days they gave up. Like now they just think that's a bad place, right? Like so that's the kind of stuff that's been going on. It's been busy. We've had a lot of family shit going on. So like I've been down to Ennis and back and out to my nephews, and it's just crazy. It's just crazy. But I'm trying now to settle back in actually getting the things done that need to get done on a homestead as we head into summer, because we're having like an incredible growth year this year because all the rain we didn't get for the last 3 years, we're getting it all right now. But I also know that will end. Like June will come and then the clouds will be like, "See you in September, bitch," because that's what's going to happen, by mid-June. So trying to get it all done.
Yeah, everything that gets tall is now tall, and it's all shit you don't want here. The swales were beautiful 2 weeks ago, and now you're not even sure what's on the swales for the other stuff. Yeah, we got to get out there. I got this little Milwaukee hedge trimmer. It's a single handheld.
Yeah, I have
awesome, man. It's great for doing that stuff.
Yeah, those are great. Is it a cordless?
Yeah, Milwaukee. Yeah,
I have one like it's the same but different. It's like some off-brand that somebody gave me, and it works great for stuff like that.
Yep, they're so busy being safe that you can't get anything. You can't get anything bigger than a pencil in there, which because you can't get your finger in there. Yeah, but I get it.
Yeah.
Well, how many terrible articles would we be reading about people cutting their fingers off if they had a lot of that stuff?
It seems like there are people that will go out of their way to injure themselves with equipment. Like, no, you can't fit your finger in there, but I bet I can get the tip of my pinky in there.
Well,
and
if you're holding it,
we are going, I don't have health insurance. Well, what you need is IQ insurance. That's what you need. You need to go home right now, take all the forks out of your drawer, put corks on the end of them, put them back in, order a helmet and some helmet polish and some crayon sharpeners, and you'll be good to go.
Same people toasting toast in the bathtub.
Toasting toast in the bathtub. Yeah, when the toaster says not to use in the shower or the bathtub,
probably has happened.
It means somebody did that.
Somebody had there's even the greatest anticipatory lawyer on the planet advising the company of what would have never been like, what you should do. You should put "do not use in bathtub" on the warning label, or "don't iron your clothes on your body."
I haven't seen that one.
But my goodness.
I bet you most women have done it.
Yep. Man,
safely, like that one little wrinkle thing, but then sooner or later, it doesn't work out.
You always
right there.
I've seen it done with hair straighteners.
Yeah.
Like you got that one little wrinkle. Like, okay, yeah.
You always talk about freezers. You can buy an old freezer and it's still running. You buy a new freezer and it dies in a couple of years.
Yep.
And I have found these Instagram channels that, and it's bizarre because I'll see these old freezers at antique stores and they are still running. And now all of a sudden it's targeted. And those things couldn't have had RFID tags. It's just over listening to the conversation.
Yeah.
But there's some great social media channels, and all these guys do is rebuild 1950 and 60 freezers and fridges and appliances. Okay. And they have so many more features, man. They all have Lazy Susans in them and all of the drawers, man. It's incredible. And then you look at our stuff, and our stuff's neat. It's got TVs and shit, but a Samsung, you literally have to replace it every 24 months.
Yeah, I just got a new fridge and it's freezing my food and it's not a year old yet. And I'm buying a commercial fridge for my kitchen next because I'm over it.
Yep.
There was a dude when I bought my last deep freezer for the garage and I was talking about how they die out there. He was explaining to me what to do to them to extend the life, but I was not in a mood to listen. I probably should have. I know it involved like the undercoating shit you can buy, like to do your own undercoating with like aerosol cans for certain coils on it or something like that. And it was just like, listen, man, I just need a freaking deep freezer. And I wasn't in the mood, but I probably should have. What threw me off is I was at a Lowe's and I was talking to a Lowe's employee in a Lowe's smock that actually knew what he was talking about. And it was so foreign to me that it didn't kick in till after I left. Like, wait a minute. That guy actually knew what he was. I should have listened to him. That's a lesson, I guess.
Was he a Vietnam veteran?
I don't think he was old enough to be a Vietnam vet.
Right.
No, he was probably younger than me, but not by much. I should say younger than us. We're all old.
Yeah, that dude works there because he likes that shit.
Yeah. That's probably what it was. It was also during the COVIDs.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he needed a job because he lost his actual productive job. Who knows?
Yeah, we had problems with. We went out through 3 big stainless steel Samsung fridges. And the manager there at the Lowe's watches all of our social media stuff. And when we had the last one go down, we were out of Samsung's warranty, but we were still within a week of Lowe's. And he goes, man, we're gonna send somebody over there. And then the next day he said, okay, these break so frequently, nobody will deal with these. We're just gonna cut you a check. And they gave us $3,500 back. And with the $3,500, I was able to buy a 3-door glass true freezer and a 2-door refrigerator, and then we bought a single door freezer upright, and those are the same exact ones that are in Dollar General and Walmart. So that's what we're running now. Now with that commercial shit, when you have a problem with it, it is a lot more expensive. Like we bought them secondhand, right? So there is no warranty on them.
Yeah.
But when they do go out, like my big 3-door freezer, it's got dual compressors and those run on propane, which is not what most dudes work on. So make sure you have a guy that can do that.
That's actually general good advice overall. It's great when you have gas, like at your house or whatever, but that means that you have to call specific types of plumbers in specific situations.
Well, I mean for the coolant actually is propane. Yeah.
Oh, it's not like a RV thing. It actually compresses propane as a coolant instead of Freon.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
And there are no fill valves. So you got to have a dude that can cut it and then put the valve in place. And their service is, we're going to send you a whole brand new compressor tray. They do not send you parts. They send you a whole unit with a toolkit the first time.
Yeah, we just got a lesson in that with those freaking front load washers.
Yep.
The little thing you drain, it's like a little drain cap at the bottom, and it's so that you can drain the stink water, which why is there stink water in there? I don't know, but
bad design, Jack. It's bad design.
Well, the little cap thing broke, like it was leaking stink water in my pantry. So I look at it and I'm like, oh, O-ring. So I measured the O-ring with a caliper. I'm like, I'll just order a new O-ring, not the O-ring. I don't know what was the problem, but it wasn't the problem. So I'm like, well, I'll just order a new little squirrely cap thing. No, can't do that. They don't make those. They do, but they come with a whole assembly. Well, I'll just order the bottom assembly piece of it. And no. $600 fucking dollars to get this assembly. And I ended up finding some dude, I think he was Bosnian, that ran a little side business fixing appliances and shit. He's like, no, I got this. And it ended up with him doing the work costing me $200 versus buying this $600 thing.
That's what you need, a guy from a country that is intermittently without power.
No, I fix. That's what he just said. No, I fix. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
$200. Yeah, here, fuck, take it. 40. Like you're 1/3 my cost of buying the part. And there's opportunity, right, guys? When you're the guy that can do that shit, you know?
So my best friend had a deal going in Portland, Oregon when he lived there with a dude who was like that, who could fix anything, who didn't want to spend the time finding appliances to fix. So he would like pick up free appliances all over the city and bring them to the guy, and the guy would fix them, and then they each took a percentage of the sale. So there's room for a middleman there too, if you're the middleman type.
So Empty says one older gentleman once told me the only thing Samsung makes right are TVs and phones. I would add to that chips. They're the leading chip manufacturer in the world. And I learned this from our mutual friend David, guys. I did not know this. Like almost half of South Korea works for Samsung at least at some point during the year. Like they have shit over there. It's like compulsory service to industry. And like you get this notice like on your phone, like report for work tomorrow at 9 a.m. and like 1,000 motherfuckers that don't work there will show up, work for 4 hours, and go back to their lives. To get that kind of compliance, as much as I don't want to live under a government like that, they must be doing something right, because most people would just like if you did that here, whatever, you can't get motherfuckers to show up for jury duty here. You ain't get them to show up to work for 4 hours.
Well, they imprison them or execute them.
I think they execute them. Maybe. They just deport your ass to North Korea and let nature take its course.
North Korea do it, yeah.
There's a lot of protection to keep people from getting out. I don't think they have a problem with you coming in, really. Like, not in that way, anyway. Did you see the thing that went around when COVID started, and it was Kim Jong-un, and it was like number of COVID cases? And it said 1, and then like the next frame he's looking at it says 0. The next frame it says 1, and then it says 0, and then 1 and 0, and then it just says ha ha ha.
AJ Harrison, where do you source that brand? ATOSA. I'd be curious.
I'm gonna guess it's Websterant.
Maybe so.
What is it?
Because I can get a commercial fridge. It's fridge only, stainless steel front, for about $1,400. Delivered to my house if I do their subscribe delivery thing.
Yeah. And
I looked at that the minute I realized I was freezing lettuce in my fridge already. And I thought, well, that's the next choice, because that's about what I'm going to pay on the fridge anyway.
They look on the commercial level, like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. Websterant's been great. We bought a slide top big freezer. Ordered it, paid next day shipping, and it showed up the next day. When we bought our our chamber vacuum sealer, same thing. Bought it, showed up the next day. They've been great to deal with.
Yep. Oh, he says not Websterant. They advertise on Facebook, actually.
Okay.
Got it.
I was trying to find a price. It looks like I can't afford it, and I can afford a lot of things. This shit looks expensive. But there's probably a reason, right?
Yeah, well, there's a point where I'm willing to pay money for appliances that don't go out. Like when we had to get a deep freeze, a lot of research went into one that did not have a computer in it, because what seems to go wrong for my appliances most of the time are the computers. And then by the time you replace the computer, you might as well just get a new thing if it's out of warranty.
Yeah.
Okay, Jack, I read a thing the other day, list of the top 20 jobs that won't be here in 10 years. And people were arguing their faces off, like things like truck drivers and that sort of thing. What are your thoughts on some jobs that people may not realize are going to be gone, that they're going to be gone? And why? Teachers.
They're getting laid off left and right. California this quarter laid off 998 teachers in 92 districts, or 98 districts.
That was great.
Almost 1,000 teachers laid off, and those were only the teacher layoffs. So those peripheral maintenance men and stuff like that. Yeah.
Grade school.
It did not specify in the article that I read. Also, Massachusetts is announcing layoffs, And of course, the teachers are going a strike and asking for more money in response to being told they're going to get laid off, because that'll help. That'll win the public support over really, really, really hard. And if you go right now to like Google News and just search for teacher layoffs, you'll find pages before you get back 60 days. Like this is coming left and right, which I said would happen 4.5, 5 years ago. People got a taste of homeschool, so you got that. You also have massive migration within the United States that's catching up. So it's not necessarily that we need less teachers in total, but we need less teachers in Los Angeles and Portland and San Francisco and places that people are fleeing. And not all those teachers can or will move to where their kids are going. Plus you have, again, that we went from like 1.1 million to almost 5 million homeschoolers in 4 years. So you pulled that out. Then we just have the whole demographic bomb that's going on right now where people are not having enough kids. So 2026, I think it is, or 2025, somewhere between 2025 and 2027 is the official, what's known as the college enrollment cliff, which is the college are shitting their pants that they're going to have this massive decline in new students. And the reason isn't because they haven't lowered their standards enough or anything. It's because the basketball coming through the pipeline that is college or high school grads that can go to college is getting smaller. So we've already held teachers in K-12 longer than necessary. If you have less kids, I know it's crazy, but you need less teachers, right? If you're going to put 28 butts in a classroom and you divide the total population by 28, then you need less teachers. So they've done that. And what they're blaming right now, this is why it's happening, because they're losing the pandemic emergency funds. As though that's what schools have been running on for the past 70 years or something, right? Like, so they all got like this huge influx of cash that was absolutely not necessary for anything at all related to the scamdemic, because they just didn't do school and then they went back to school. And so then they've been pissing this money away. I just read an article today about local school district here, Fort Worth, and how much money they pissed away. $400 million in 4 years, and they have nothing to show for it. But it's the reason they have to lay teachers off now.
That's always the reason. That and when homeschoolers go to homeschool, there's not enough money left in the school system.
Yep,
according to
homeschoolers, and
according to people, but not data.
I'll take credit for the homeschool part having at least an impact. I wouldn't say it's your real excuse. Like, why did people do that? Would be the question I would ask back. But economically, it is having an impact. If you pull roughly 3 million additional students out in an already declining student body, yes, it will have an impact, and you fucking deserve it, you assholes. That's my response to that.
But when you pull students out, they don't lose $1 for $1. So
no, but
some of the money that was intended for that kid stays in the school, so but they end up with more per child per capita.
No, it doesn't initially. Eventually, it'll get redistributed at a rebalancing of the budget. But if your kid goes to A school, right, and then there's B school over here, and A school this year loses like 10% of its students, it loses the funding that comes with those students. The state keeps it, but it won't get reapportioned until the next budget year, right? So that's how that works. So they have an immediate hit to every kid that doesn't go ass in seat, and they also have a hit for every ass in seat that's absent more than X number of days. It'll vary by state, but they'll say if a student is absent, let's say 4 or more unexcused absences in a quarter, you don't get your money from the state for that ass in seat. And that's been going on for 20 years. And that's why they have gotten like draconian with the attendance policies. They don't give a fuck that your kid's not getting educated. They care that they're not getting their money for that quarter or that school year.
Yeah. Police will show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say that all the time. Just simply remove, my kid's not going to your school anymore. Yeah. But if you leave the kid in school and you go, I think I want a 3-day weekend every Monday with my child, somebody with guns are eventually going to show up if you don't show up to the court.
Do you remember like your parents could write a note saying, hey, we're going to spend an extra week skiing after spring break and Johnny won't be there. Please give us a homework packet.
Yep.
That's what they did in the 80s.
That's how when I was a kid. If you were going to, I took a trip with my dad when I was in my sophomore year of high school. We went out to Yellowstone and all that for a week and a half. And he got this much pushback, which was immediately what? And there was sorry, Mr. Spirko.
Yeah. I missed so much school in the ninth. I missed so much school in ninth grade, beginning to 10th. The counselor told my mom she should just sign me out of school. That wouldn't happen now.
Yeah. But it's all about money because they don't give a fuck when your kid shows up every day and gets Fs.
Yep.
That's fine. But when they're not there, they don't get the money. You get the money for the failing. And did you see what California did with its grades? Like when I was in school, I don't know about you, but it was like 93 to 100 was an A and 85 to 92 was a B. That was kind of and then like, I don't know, it was like 75 to 85.
Yeah, ours was on the O, so 90 to 100, 80
Okay,
to 90.
and then that did happen while I was in school. I saw it shift down like to
Yeah.
round it off 80, 90, 90, 100. I think you get a C in California right now with something like a 45%. I think you have to go into the 20s to get an F. If that's true, and I didn't research it, I just saw somebody talking about this, but I don't doubt it at this point. When I was in school, I don't know if you guys ever experienced this, we had something called weighted Fs. So, like, if you were below 69, you got an F. But then if you went, I can't remember, but there was an F1, F2, F3. Like, the lower you went, and it actually went negative against your GPA. So an F was a 0, but an F1 was a -1 against your GPA. In other words, there's failure and there's abysmal failure. Like if you're down in the 20th percentile, you've learned nothing. You probably would have got 20% right by accident. So that would be like a -3 against your GPA. And it encouraged people to actually try. Like even getting an F was better than an F2, let's say. And it seems like everything that requires any level of academic excellence has just been scrubbed from these systems.
So how about the liberal college implosions and the vandalisms and fires and insanity? Stop stopping that. Let that happen. Let them burn that shit to the ground.
My enemies are fighting. Why would I get involved?
Yes.
Right? Like, you know, my enemies are fighting each other. Let me step into that. I talked about this yesterday and I talked about it last week some. You need to step back and ask yourself, not just who's funding this, because that only leads to more of the division anyway. You have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of these demonstrations? To me, this has nothing to do with Israel and Palestine. As to the purpose of the purpose is to make us hate each other, fight each other, and be angry at each other.
Most of them are paid actors. They have the same tents. They've been arrested in last riot season. Last year they were Antifa. It's the same crew. What they say less
than, they go all the way back to Occupy Wall Street. These people have been arrested in every protest since Occupy Wall Street.
They're not students.
Some of the schools, the arrests have been 50 to 65% non-students, right? Like you're saying. But again, what is the purpose? The purpose is division. And where I see this so crystal clear is in our circles, the libertarian anarcho circles, people that up until this point have loved each other, who agree on 95% of things, who even when they've disagreed in the past were like, okay, we agree to disagree on this one thing. Now they're just spewing venom and hatred at each other. And so, you know, I'm reminded of what was the movie in the 80s with the war games, Matthew Broderick, right? How about a nice game of chess? Like, I'm just not going to play this game because there is no winning this game. So I keep getting pushback from my own audience. You don't understand the plight of the Palestinians, or you don't understand. No, I understand. It sucks. I'm glad I'm not there, but I know that there's nothing in Jack Spirko's vernacular or opinion that will influence anything. And I know the purpose of this is to make us hate each other.
And so I don't give a shit.
I'm hating people for no good reason. I don't want to participate in this.
And I don't care about either one. We got stuff we can affect and change here locally where you can see the effects of it. You can't see the effects of anything that happens over there.
Do you know what you don't do? You don't stick your hand in a fire ant mound. Because if you do, you can't win that fight. They're little. You think you can quash them and all. And if you use chemical warfare like orange oil, you can. But if you try to crush them, they will sting the shit out of you. Right? I mean, they bite you, they sting you, and then they piss formic acid in the wound. That's what a fire ant does. That's why they're called formica. That's where the Latin comes from in ants. Right? So you look at that and go, yeah, I'm not going to do that. You see a hornet's nest? You don't go poking it. Not unless you want a Darwin Award. Right. So getting involved in this is poking the hornet's nest while you stand in a fire ant mound. Both sides will kill you.
What's the anti-Semitic hate speech laws that were just passed, and who does that affect? Are you familiar with this?
I know that Congress did something, and
you're not allowed to say the Jews killed Jesus was one of them.
No, that's one of them. Yeah. That's considered anti-Semitic to say the Jews killed Jesus.
Yeah, doesn't the Bible say that?
Sort of. That's an interesting philosophical thing. If you read the Gospels in order, the blame that goes upon the Jewish people progressively increases from the first Gospel to the last Gospel.
As it was written.
As it was written in order. If you go back to John being the latest Gospel, puts the most blame on the Jewish people for the execution of Jesus. As it became more and more tenable to the Roman Empire to allow this Christian thing, well, let's blame shift. I'm sure people will be mad at me for that, but I don't know. Go read the part from like the Last Supper on in all four Gospels in the order that they were written, and judge for yourself.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of interviews with these kids out there asking, "Hey, what are you guys mad about? What are you protesting?" And they look right over to their comrade and they're like, "What are we mad about? Like, what are we protesting? What are their demands? Nothing about Palestine."
I saw one. I think it was UC Berkeley, and they were saying, "Ask the people in the green vests."
Yeah, you got
the professional agitators that have the canned answers, or the student organizers that have the canned answers. And some of the students that are organizers are on freaking stipend retainers.
Yeah, and a lot
of the other organizations and similar.
So it's not actually very different than how skinheads behaved in the 80s, where they would come out and mess stuff up, and then you would see somebody ask a question, the same thing. They're looking at each other for the groupthink for why are we beating this person up or screwing with that? It's not a different behavior.
Well, this is the modern day Woodstock. These kids didn't attend anything. They weren't there for the George Floyd stuff. They weren't there for the Summer of Love. And this is their opportunity to build the event that they were there and riled up to protest over, to tell their future, kids.
There's a song that goes, "Every generation blames the one before." And that's why college-age students make such perfect, in the words of these organizers, useful idiots. They're big enough to fuck shit up, and they're young enough to believe whatever you plant in their head that makes them feel that they're the victim, and by rebelling, they're helping society as a whole. If you think about, like, if you could go back in time to 1970 and walk through Tehran, Iran, right? You would think you're in any modern city. People walking around in suits and ties and leisure clothing, women without burqas and head coverings on, plenty with, plenty without, because it was a choice. We ended up with the Iranian Revolution. We ended up with the Ayatollahs in charge. The Shah flees. You guys are probably, we were all young, but you could probably remember the Iranian hostage situation. Shortly after Reagan's elected, we end up with them walking off the plane in Germany and its victory. And people are chanting "Born in the USA," not understanding that song's actually an anti-American song. And everything was, hunky-dory in the United States. But all of a sudden, Iran fell into complete Islamic rule. Well, how did that happen? Did the Islamists themselves rise up and take over the whole country? No. It was led by student protest at the college level, useful idiots, who stormed all kinds of shit, caused all kinds of shit, created a vacuum, took these hostages, etc. And when they were done, the students themselves were like, well, what the fuck happened? How this isn't what they wanted, was to oust the colonizers. But they never thought about what would fill the hole.
Yeah, same thing with Haiti. That was the French Riviera. It was a vacation. Same thing with Iraq. Look at Gaddafi, like Gaddafi's whole thing. I mean, that's all CIA. Every bit of that is orchestrated by the Central Intelligence Agency.
Yeah, when Gaddafi was in charge in Libya, when you got married, the government gave you a house.
And $60,000 with zero interest as long as you farmed. They gave you, not only did they give you a house, they would give you 5 acres of property if you agreed to farm it. Mm-hmm. And if you agreed to get married and have a child, they would give you, it was either 50 or 60,000, zero interest.
Yeah.
For having a child.
Yeah. Sounds like a terrorist to me.
And being married. Yeah. He had aquifers put in that were going to green the entire desert. When all that happened, they bombed all those aquifers at the same time they took him out. The same time that happened, there was a bunch of aircraft that destroyed that whole infrastructure through there. Kind of weird. That's not very spoken about.
We came, we saw, he died.
Yeah, and what has replaced that? Like, you hear about slave trade of biblical proportion. That is what's happening right now. And it's not people from those local areas that are being traded in those markets.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that was the seat of the slave trade right around the time of the founding of the United States. I mean, the whole Marine Corps anthem, the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, that was about the first deployment of the U.S. Marine Corps to disrupt the white slave trade out of North Africa.
Yep.
Where over 1 million white women were sold into the slave trade in the Middle East. It's right back where it was to begin with.
That's what's there right now. That's happening. They are recovering U.S. citizens from those areas right now.
Yeah.
And I don't mean U.S. citizens that were born abroad. I mean people from the United States.
Yeah,
that is the market. Every time people talk about collapse of society, that is the trade, is white women. Not, well, U.S., women. That is the trade.
Yep.
Nobody wants to have that conversation.
Okay, here's one from Bonnie Blue. 100 years ago, people moved all over the country for jobs. Why does it seem those who need jobs the most are unwilling to travel to where work can be found?
Because they're too comfortable. We don't have it like during the Great Depression. You were allowed to starve to death. We don't allow people who won't earn their own incomes to starve to death. We don't allow people to just perish. We keep them up because that keeps them on the system and it keeps other people agitated and aggravated about it. We don't allow people who won't feed themselves to starve. Most people, nobody in the United States has stepped out of the door and something's going to pounce on them. Most places, we don't even allow them in big cities. If you don't pay your water and electric, you'll run almost a year before they turn that shit off. And most places won't turn it off.
Yeah. In fact, there's a lot of places where if you have a tenant that hasn't paid their rent, 6 months getting them out the door, you did good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Here in this small town, if you don't pay your water, they turn your shit off and put a lock on it. And then that's called theft of services. When you come home and your electric's off, it's usually not a tree has hit your line. They literally pull your meter out of that thing.
Awesome. See, and that actually incentivizes people to pay. I mean, Texas is what's called the trust deed state for landlords. And I'm not sure how many states are. I think there's like 18. And it's like the best situation you can be in as a landlord. You can throw somebody out of here pretty easy. Still takes 90 days.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
90 days. Somebody can just flat out say, I'm not paying you. And if they move out on the 89th day, the sheriff won't even worry about that they fucked the place up before they left. They don't care.
No, because it's trespassing for you to go in and stop them from messing it up.
Yep.
Like the worst eviction I had took about 60 days here, and it would have been 2 weeks faster had I copped to what I needed to do sooner with a lawyer. But
that's why
it was 2 weeks from judgment to sheriff shows up to eject the person.
They have like all these people doing like the tiny houses and shit. Like, I think that's an incentive to put it through something like an Airbnb or a Vibro or something, even though they take a fee. Because if you're in one of those, and I tell you this isn't working out, you need to leave, and you don't leave, within an hour, a sheriff's deputy would grab you by the neck and throw you over the fence into the street. Right? You're not going to jail, but you are leaving, and you are leaving now. If you are a tenant, it's a totally different thing. And I wonder if there's an opportunity there. Is there an opportunity there for somebody to take a much smaller fee for a service like that is only for the purpose of allowing rapid eviction of long-term rental people?
You have to look at your local market on that one too.
So
some places have now said if you're in more than 30 days, no matter how you've booked it, you now get tenant rights. Yeah. So that has been changing.
So you need 2 identical tiny houses and you fucking move.
Every 15 days.
Well, that's what they do with a lot of like different kind of work visas and shit like that, right? When you go to another country, like you can go there without becoming a national or whatever, but like once every 90 days you have to leave the country for a certain amount of time, or once every year or something like that, you have to leave, and then you can come back, but you have to leave and like touch base, and then you can come back. And I guess they do that to break the continuous thing that would trip one of their constitutional things and give you, like an on-ramp to becoming a national or something.
Yeah, here's an interesting one. We got hit with the tenant's electric bill last week. They said pay it or they would turn our electrical off.
What?
When I was in Portland, I believe if my tenant moved out and I wanted the water in my name and they had an outstanding balance, I had to pay the outstanding balance.
What?
I like Adam Rapier's comment there. W-2 jobs make people complacent. Could you imagine if everybody had to pay their own taxes at the end of the year? They have no idea. And it's weird that a W-2 employee, but a business owner still has to pay his taxes. The government could make it the same way. They just don't, because they know that they can leverage that business owner harder than they can that individual person.
Well, they also know the psychological impact, right? Like,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
You get your first check and you're like, what the fuck? But after a few checks, like this is what I live on. And you don't even think about, I would say the average moron doesn't even think about it.
You.
Yeah. Right. Like it just, they don't comprehend like that's your money. And then most people don't know about, SSI, right? They don't know that Social Security is double the number they see. And the employer's paying it. And then when you explain it, the average response is, so I don't care. My employer pays it. John, it's a competitive fucking marketplace, isn't it, when you go to hire people? Don't you think if you didn't have to pay that shit, that money could go into the money that you could offer that employee to get them to work for you instead of somebody else, right?
Absolutely.
No one thinks this way.
But it's to keep further division between employee and employer as well. The boss is the asshole always.
It's amazing to me how many people seem to think like companies just have money, right? Like they put like when they're thinking about how much
there's absolutely a magic money tree right next to my roasting shack, Jack.
Yep.
You just go out there and you pick it.
Yeah. And when you tell people something like that, Nicole, then they say, well, not your company, but big companies. Well, what's a big company, right? Is SOE a big company? Some people would say yes. And if you run something like, I don't know, Hewlett Packard, you would probably say no. So what is big? What is a big a $4 million turnover company? Because I know a lot of people run companies in that size. They barely pay themselves $100,000 a year because most of that money goes into supply chain, employees, management, et cetera. And they're building equity in the business because their plan is, I can make $100,000 a year, which I could go work for somebody and do, but I'm going to sell this business 10 years into it, right? There's plenty of things like that.
So 100% of the money I made on SRF went into a trailer that's enclosed for SRF this time so that I can just drive out there with all the bins organized in it and we set up. That's what business owners do.
Yep.
Because that's a good long-term thing.
Yep.
And I can resell that trailer if SRF stops being SRF, right? But that was not a hard decision. And I didn't want a crappy one. I wanted one I could count on to stay dry, like all of those things, the right size, double axles, like in decent shape. AJ actually in the comments helped me find it while he was here.
Cool. You know the big giant shed I have that everybody calls Patrick Workshop here, right?
Yeah.
It's a 16 by 20 tough shed with a loft. I did not put that in so Patrick would have a workshop 2 days out of the year. I put that in. It's an event shed. I mean, we keep other shit in there, but we put that building in specifically so we had one place that all our shit for events went into. That's an investment, right? And again, I wish we could get more of this into the shitty education system we have. I don't care if everybody becomes an entrepreneur, but it would be good if everybody understood, like, what does it take to employ you? What is the actual burdened cost of an employee? Because a person, let's say makes $18 an hour, they think they cost $18 an hour. An $18 an hour employee costs about $45 an hour for the average business. And for some businesses, much, much more. And so all of that burden cost, some of it is business operational burden. In other words, I'm going to have to pay that to burden the weight of this employee, whether the government says I do or not. But a shitload of it is government-induced burden. It's regulatory burden. And if it wasn't there, it becomes part of the negotiable salary.
They can't teach that in school because people would realize that most of them do not need the college system that they're being funneled into, which is what the school has become, is to funnel people into that. That bullshit all started when the government said we're going to secure all of those student loans, so loan away.
Do you know that before that, almost everybody who went to college went for free?
I did not know that.
They went for free or they went for very little money because everything was paid for with endowments and by alumni. Because when you're saying about 1 in 4 people are collegiate candidates, there's plenty of money for the schools to and their endowments and their alumni to fund those students through. because they're exceptional. They also would qualify then for private, scholarship and things like that because they were the top 25% of students. That's why they were going to college in the first place. And then college was relatively low cost overall because just like gold kept government honest to a degree, a limited amount of funding had to keep the colleges honest to it. They didn't put a building in when they didn't know what they were going to do with it yet.
Well, wasn't that how?
Asked for a raise, they're like, maybe if you could raise some more money from our existing donor class, then we can give you a raise if you become a rainmaker. Like literally, like some of the professors were treated like, let's say, lawyers in a law firm where they're like, you want more money? Bring some clients. And then when the free-flowing money came and it got teamed with that marketing program of every child should go to college that we all grew up with, it didn't matter anymore. It didn't matter anymore. Now they have these giant endowments that grow every year, whether people put money in them or not, and they're completely tax-free, even though the schools, while they say they're not for-profit, are completely for-profit operations.
Well, isn't that how welfare was? It wasn't a career.
Yes.
I'll bet if you look at the dates that all happened, it coincides.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've been to the site, John. What the fuck happened in 1971?
No, but I do know what happened in 1971. The last vestiges of the gold standard used to be that a man could work and his wife would stay home and raise their children. Any money he put in the bank account would actually grow each year. And in 71, when we came off of that standard, that money actually depreciated every year and you would have less, right? So there was no incentive to save that money. At the same time, we also told women and started convincing them that they did not provide for the family, so they needed to go out and actually get a second job also, thus not raising their children and educating their children. And that's the same time that public school system started, where we started pushing everybody to the kids because they're under the guise of they are not being educated and they cannot read. But that all happened at the same time at 71 there.
And then what also happened is every problem we have got exponentially worse.
Yes.
Every problem.
Yes.
The use of seed oils exponentially increased right at 1971. The number of administrators in the education system, the number of administrators in the legal system, the number of administrators in the medical system.
Why all of that at once? Are we going to find out that's when the WEF was formed, or what happened there that all came to fruition at the same time?
If you can print money, you can buy more things.
Gotcha.
It's that simple. And then what most people don't realize about what actually happened with this is that it wasn't like Nixon was like, yeah, I think this gold thing's a bad idea, so let's not do it anymore. The way it was termed back then, and this predates us all, was that France had declared economic warfare on the United States, beginning under de Gaulle, and then it continued with, I can't remember who the president was at the time this happened. The French were calling our bluff. We were saying every dollar was backed by a fixed amount of gold. We were full of shit. So what the French were doing is that all the money that would come into the French government's control in any given year was being redeemed for gold from the United States. So imagine you're in a casino and the casino's like, everybody that's playing games, it's all good. We can cash in every chip that's on every table. But somebody says, I'm not so sure. So they go to cash all their chips at once before they finish losing on the table. And then everybody starts going to the window. And this is where the term gold window comes from, by the way. So eventually enough people start rushing the window. The casino closes the window and starts issuing credits for outstanding chips because they were lying and they were issuing more chips than they had money in the first place because they expected the take off the pot to equalize it. But when somebody bum rushed the window, the jig was up. That's why Nixon did it in the first place. It's 100% due to France. And it was part of the way, like this gets really dirty. Like it's part of the way they were funding the issuance of the colonial franc in Africa, which still exists. And people think that was the French franc, but it was actually a separate currency created by France to loot over their empire and their colonies in Africa. And if you want to know why all of a sudden Mercone is like all of a sudden the lion of NATO and we're going to send troops in, it's because they are losing their shit over Africa. That's they're trying to look strong because they're about to ask for a shitload of help.
Empire.
Because that whole, Central African French remnant of the colonial days is falling apart. Like juntas are taking over and throwing the fucking French troops out and shit. and the next thing is the colonial French franc. And so all this fucking ties together. Like, again, like we teach history in this little chopped up piece with no continuity that just gives people the point of view that we want them to have at the time.
And we evaluate things that happened in the past from our current state of society and cultural norms, and then get mad about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think about the fact that, like, how much bullshit is driven up by that there was slavery in the United States. We were not the last country to get rid of wholesale open slavery.
No, it still exists a lot of places.
But I'm even talking about like the complete wide open, totally like, hey, look what we're doing. We're doing this. Like most of that's been quashed except for some areas like you were mentioning earlier. There were plenty that did it after, and everybody did it before. There is not a group of people in the world that weren't somebody's slave in general at one time. Slavery is not a black-white thing. It is a subjugation method where what really began it was in warfare situations. We wanted to relegate this group of people to a subservient level, but we didn't want to kill them all. Because now that we've taken over this place and we want to run and manage this place, we don't have enough fucking people to export into it to do that. So we need this, human resource, right? Human resource to actually do certain things. So they would leave certain power structures in place, and they would subjugate specifically the warrior class of that society into slavery to keep them in their place.
Subjects.
Yep.
Citizens.
Yep.
Well, now the way our world works, Jack, it's completely different.
Yes. Now
Well,
we
they
pay
are.
our own bill as a slave.
They are slaves. They just don't realize they're slaves. And a lot of that is that government school system from the Prussian school system designed to teach children to show up on time, move with a bell, to send them into factories. And now we don't have the factories.
I was thinking the other day that I hadn't thought about the programming we get in government schools as teaching you to deprioritize yourself. But just the fact you have to adhere to that bell no matter what, or you get in big trouble, rather than do what's best for you, that's like the foundation.
Yeah. It used to be illegal to be homeless. It was illegal not to have a job. They used to take kids that parents would give up their kids in the 1800s. If you look up poorhouses and workhouses, a lot of kids would opt to go to those workhouses in cotton factories and such, and they had to sign over there. They had to be a subject of that workhouse until they were 18 years of age. And there's a ton of videos on that stuff.
Yeah, you go back to where we started this whole line on the economics. If you go back to the Great Depression, when Roosevelt put in the Civilian Conservation Corps, people were basically leaving home and living in a tent for 3 square meals a day and minimum wage.
The Hoover Dam project, there was people out there for a year in line hoping to get a job. And you got a job when somebody died, typically on those jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the meantime, when that was happening, Las Vegas was operating as though it was just a normal place. Like they didn't have any of the Great Depression in Las Vegas. A lot of that, even during the Civil War, people don't realize so few people actually participated. It was a spectator sport or a spectator picnic to go and watch a battle on the battlefield in certain battlefields during the Civil War. It didn't affect everybody. There were millions made and empires made during those times. Yep. When we hear about the faction, not everybody participated and fought in the Civil War. Not everybody participated or was affected by the Great Depression. That's some of them.
That's true with the Civil War right up till if you were in the South in a major population center after freaking Gettysburg. Once the North began advancing through, that's when the war really came to civilians in the South. And everybody talks about Grant burning, Atlanta or Richmond? I don't remember which, but that was through the Carolinas and all. There were massive sieges and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. A great deal of the country just went on with their life, and war was good for the economy for some, right? Like if you made guns, like war is a good thing. If you make rockets, then what's going on in Europe and the Near East is good for business. It's good for Lockheed, right? It's good for Northrop Grumman.
Have you heard of Ethan Allen Furniture Company, right? It's supposed to be a pretty high-end furniture company. Ethan Allen diverted funds and made haversacks and muskets and stuff for the first war, right? That's where that name is still famous from today. We know it as furniture. Michael says, are there not still workhouses? Are you referring to federal prison system where they pay a man 45 cents and they make, let's use lockers, for instance. Lockers. Everybody on GSA schedule has to buy lockers through the GSA system. Never mind that you can buy the same locker for 40% less from Office Depot, right? We can buy it on the civilian market less, but as a government entity, you have to buy it from the GSA schedule, and the GSA schedule for the most part is produced by slave labor, which is the federal prison system. Is that what we're referring to? I assume that's what you mean?
No, I think he's talking about a quote from a movie.
Oh, gotcha.
But I don't remember the movie. It was something set in that time frame, and the one guy's like, "Are there no workhouses?"
Dickens, got it. Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Dickens. Okay.
Yeah, we still have them today. I've seen the inside of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Alabama says, I think we still have a poorhouse in Coldwater, Tennessee. It has a plaque out front. Anyone who would choose to go there had to be really, really bad off.
Yes. Yeah. It was typically a lot of family members or widowed women giving away their children. It was illegal for a woman at a time in several places. It was illegal for her to be a single mother. When the husband died, she had to go to a poorhouse or somebody had to take her as their wife.
Yeah. Yeah. There was also because there was a lot of death in young adults because we hadn't found antibiotics and stuff yet. There were a lot of orphans at the time. And if you've ever wondered, why are there so many orphan heroes in our literature and shit like that? That's why. If
you haven't heard it, you should look up orphan farming also. That is a thing also, very pretty dark, pretty wild.
Over a year ago, I watched a video of Elon Musk talking to the Prince of Saudi Arabia. Elon told him he could replace 85 million jobs in America with robots in a year and a half. And 300 million jobs. Yep.
Well, many of the royalty in Saudi Arabia do not actually have work. Saudi Arabia gives them an allowance, basically. And you have a lot of men who are bored. They don't have anything to do. And they have such opulence over there from the money and not having to work. That's why there are so many exotic cars that are just abandoned. They just literally are just sitting all over the place. They get impounded. That's why you see all the big cats and things over there. You have all these men with literally nothing to do. So they do a lot of crazy things, and that crazy stuff gets captured on video. That's why we see that so frequently.
What you got for us there, Jack?
Well, just, one of our own wrote this not so long ago. The Robots Are Coming, A Human Survival Guide to Profiting in the Age of Automation by John Pugliano. I'd say this book's about 7 years old right now, and it's becoming very much a prophetic thing as to what's going on. What's interesting with the Saudi Arabian thing is John's right. They do get paid to simply sit there and exist, but they get paid because of massive oil reserves. Those oil reserves are being depleted. And it's also the case that global demand for oil will probably go down in the near future, not because it makes sense, but because of policy of governments. So that may be a really risky thing for them as well. They have very high unemployment in Saudi Arabia, but they have low poverty, right? But it doesn't come without problems because, and this is something we don't talk about enough, people without purpose become problematic. And people also become depressed, right? So they end up with holes in them spiritually, emotionally, and structurally, and then they seek comfort in something else. Well, if you're in I'm not saying we should do this. I'm saying when you're in a really highly regulated society like Saudi Arabia, you're probably not going to end up being a cocaine addict, right? It's hard to be a cocaine addict. It's really easy to be a drug addict in the United States. So the more we do to make people comfortable with not working, not only do we create our own labor problems, we create an awful lot of social problems. If we're going to do this, then we need to give people something to do in return for the money, even if it's not a critical thing that we need them to do. But that was the one thing that the term got batted around a lot in the 80s and 90s, but nobody ever really did anything with it. Workfare, right? The idea that, if we're going to put you on some sort of government stipend, then you should pick fucking garbage up off the highway, or something. Like, there's got to be something useful we could do with people who don't otherwise have a job. And while I don't think that's an ideal solution, it is better than just, hey, here's a free house, here's free healthcare, here's free money, and by the way, it's just enough money that you can live on Twinkies and ramen noodles.
Well, isn't that the dystopian movies? They have to show up and ride an exercise bike to generate electricity to have their thing. And then to keep them entertained so that they are not out creating chaos, we give them the virtual reality goggles, which gives them the girlfriend. And you have 5 naked dudes sitting on a couch, just pacified, right? There's a lot to that. And as far as the reduction in oil, that's the whole 15-minute cities. You're going to do everything within 15 minutes. You're not going to have a vehicle anymore. They've actually said that you will not own a vehicle after 2030. That will be the last private vehicle ownership. As far as the robots, I saw some video this morning of a humanoid robot with a sledgehammer busting down cinder block walls doing demolition. And then on the same note, Walmart, I believe, has come out. I've seen this several times over the last few weeks, saying that they are reducing or eliminating self-checkout because of the problem. You're going to have to pay a monthly fee now to be able to use self-checkout. And then it also got busted out that they do not have AI monitoring those self-checkout cameras. There are actually humans in India that are monitoring those self-checkout cameras.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
So walk up to the camera, wave and smile.
Yeah.
They're busy calling you about the money you owe for a Microsoft patch. They're not paying attention to the camera.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, how much of that is the case as well. But
yeah,
I would, rather than stay in line where Martha is moving super slow motion and you're like, how are you this morning? Well, I'm here. I would much rather self-checkout. And I know people think self-checkout's the devil, but my time is valuable. And if I can self-check myself out, especially with a few items, and not have to interact with one of those shitty human beings that does not want to be there that day, I'm probably going to pay the fee to be able. Actually, the truth is we very rarely go to any of those stores anymore. We just order online and it shows up here typically within 60 seconds, and they have a rating system. So we always get a good driver. And if you're a customer that is disgruntled or doesn't tip the driver, you're ranked. They don't have to take. There are people on local Facebook saying, hey, I try to use this and nobody will deliver my shit. Well, that should probably tell you, that's probably your everyday life. You should start with the mirror.
Yeah.
I just did Walmart for pickup yesterday, and it was awesome. You pull up, call a phone number, and they come out and put it in your car.
We needed another GoPro camera. We ordered it at 6 a.m, and at 7:30, it drove up to the door.
My thing with the self-checkout, though, is what's in my cart. If alcohol's in my cart and I'm going to have to wait for somebody anyway to say, this old dude is actually able to buy booze, okay, I'm not going to self-checkout. If I have produce that doesn't have a barcode, it has to be looked up. I'm not doing the self-checkout thing because I'm going to end up with some bullshit going on anyway. If I have stuff that I can just scan and throw in a bag, I don't care if the cart's full. I'm not dealing with a human. I know that I'm better at that job than the person that does it every day, 25 days a month, that's been professionally trained on it for 10 years. That's sad, but I know that I am. I will be faster because I care about getting out of there, and they just care about running out the clock and getting
at Aldi. If you have a gajillion items and there's not a line, the checkout person's faster than their self-checkout.
Yeah, when you self-checkout, if the cheat code for Costco, at least the two that we go to, when you self-checkout, the Costco agent is like, hey, would you like us to check you out? And they are super fast.
Yeah.
Costco also starts their people at what, $30 an hour?
I'm not sure it's that much, but it's better than most. I do know that. If I needed a job job and I didn't see any progression for myself outside of the job world and I had no education, Costco is where I would probably go first to look for a job. Not just because it's a decent entry level job and pay, because the advancements insane without a degree. They don't care. They care who's good. I was reading this biographical article on the person that is their wine buyer. This chick's making $500,000 a year, and she literally flies to Italy and tastes the wine and says, yeah, we'll take, X thousand cases of that. And we want to private label this one under our label. And like, that's her job. And she started, I think it was actually in Tennessee. It was Tennessee or Virginia, as like, hello, welcome to Costco. Let me check your ID. Like, that's how she started. And now she's their global wine buyer. And there's all types of people in that organization like that. Like, they promote from within.
Yep. Everybody's talking about the starting wages at these places, $23 an hour.
For Buc-ee's.
Most U.S.
I wonder
citizens
why they can't hire $8.50 an hour bus drivers in my county.
Yeah, because it's your county. You're impoverished just like we are. Like we don't even have buses. Like our school bus drivers own the bus. It is their bus. They maintain it. Our local post.
Wow.
My postal lady has 3 identical cars. When she has a problem, she calls her husband. He brings her another one. He sits there and takes care of hers, and she is back to the delivery. I got a buddy that drives a Cadillac Escalade. He delivers Amazon packages only on Sunday. That's how well he's doing with that job.
There's money to be made for people that want it. But I had a kid on my show about 2 weeks ago. He's a mechanic. He's like 24, 25-year-old kid working his ass off. And the whole subject was improving work ethic in our youth. And he said, this is exactly the problem, though. His job is physically hard. Being a mechanic, it's one of those things that doesn't feel hard until you're like 2 weeks into doing it. And then you realize all these contortions and shit start to wear you out. And you have to work hard to keep that job and to move up in that job. But there's jobs that will pay you, 90% of that wage to not work hard.
Mm-hmm.
So the people are making this very simple equation. I can bust my ass for, let's say, $22 an hour, or I can slack for 20. And they're choosing to slack for 20. But what he pointed out, and this is valid too, the $20 an hour job likely has, or 18, the numbers are arbitrary, right? But that easier job for less money likely has very little upward mobility. Where the job where you have to work for that entry level pay that's only a little bit more probably has a lot more upward mobility.
So Sonny's saying Buc-ee's starts kids at 28 an hour. The beauty, or whether you like it or not, at $28 an hour, people will move there. Buc-ee's has an abundance of employees. So when they have an issue with a dude that doesn't show up on Monday, they have 5 more dudes to replace that dude. Yep. Frisella said years ago, he said, you have to pay an employee more than you should so that they know when they're not going to come to work, there is not another job they're going to get. Like, I have employees. I have that conversation. I go, what is the job where you have made the most money ever in your life? It's always here. We pay our people well. And I have that option. And then you have that ability. They know if something goes wrong or they decide they don't want to work for a few days or that becomes a habit, there is not another job where they're ever going to make that amount of money.
Yeah. Yeah. That is actually a good strategy. Pay them at least a little bit more. Because if you're like, I don't know how they keep people working at like the lower end fast food joints and all, because you can literally just like, I'm tired of you, and walk across the street and get another job.
Complacency.
Yeah, I guess.
Complacency and then lack of management.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like around here, if you're going to be a fast food worker, you want to work for Chick-fil-A. You don't want to work for any, like if you're going to be in the fast food gig and they pay better and they have better work conditions and they pay for your college and all kinds of shit like that. Like,
man, we did during the Great Chicken Wars a few years ago. We had never eaten any of these chicken sandwiches. So we took our video guys, loaded up. We went to Popeyes, and the lady is like, what the fuck you want? It was very different at Popeyes. We go to Chick-fil-A, and it's like a gay chipmunk male cheerleader. And he's out there. He is super happy to see you. Yeah, and I'm like, hey, I've never had any of this chicken. Tell me about this chicken. And he gave me a 5-minute all about their chicken. He knew where it came from, what was in it. You talk to Popeyes, and she's like, what the fuck you want? White boy. Like, that's literally what she said that to us.
Yeah. Yeah. The Chick-fil-A's here, they've now, because it gets so fucking hot, they've put these giant like carports that are 3 lanes. So when you pull in the drive-through, you pick the lane with the least amount of cars. You come up, somebody there takes your order. You drive around the window and pay in like 2 seconds. And by the time you the line's backed up, but by the time you get to the window, here's your shit. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, and they have
right.
They have misters, and they have misters and fans. Like you're waiting at an amusement park for a ride.
Yeah, it's like being at Six Flags and you're going to get on the roller coaster and you're under shade and they got the misters going. And if I'm an employee and I have to work a job like that, and I can either work there or across the street at Wendy's, where it smells when I walk in the door and not of food. Like, it smells of body odor when I went in that door. I don't even remember why I went in there. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this.
Not only that,
I think it was a grandchild thing, and I'm like, yeah, we'll go, honey. Like, nope.
The Starbucks at the Empire State Building is one of the best run long lines I've ever seen.
What is?
They take all your orders. Starbucks at the Empire State Building.
Starbucks, okay.
They take your order on the street, and by the time you and the line's just moving, by the time you get up to pay, they're handing you your coffee.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do the stand over here and lurk and wait for your name thing.
I think every Starbucks should have a self-pay option for people that just want fucking coffee.
Well, we should just stop. Like,
right? If all you want is coffee, like there should be like dispensers, like at a convenience store, and you just get your cup, swipe the thing and pay, and get your coffee. That would just knock the line down to shit.
Stop drinking coffee for 60. Stop drinking Starbucks for 60 days, and go back, and you will feel ill. Like Starbucks coffee is toxic. There is a ton, like it is poisoning you. And if you go get that Frappuccino or whatever, that is what a 1,000 calorie milkshake is what that thing is. Stop drinking Starbucks coffee. We go there out of occasion, and we stopped going, and every now and then we go back, and I literally go, why the fuck did we go here? Like, what? Yeah. I feel like shit. This tastes like shit. I throw it in the trash as I'm walking out the door, because we just go there when we have 15 minutes to kill before a movie or something, for instance. We'll get some coffee. It's horrible. Like,
if I'm drinking coffee at Starbucks, I'm at an airport or a hotel.
Yes, understood.
Right. You know, that's
like you are a captive audience, and it's gas station coffee or Starbucks. That's what's happening there.
Now, if you were in Texas, there's a lot of gas station chains. I'll take their coffee over Starbucks. I tried Quick Trip. Quick Trip coffee's badass. Like store convenience store level, and it's like $1.50 for a big one instead of $6.
Somebody in here said every time we go to Popeyes, it smells like weed. When we go out in a major city, I do smell weed all the time. And I think that take whatever drugs you want, but if you're working for me, you better take some that speeds you up on Monday, not slow you down. And I think that it does sedate people. I know somebody's going to tell me there's 2-3 different kinds of weed, like Kratom, but I think for the most part, people smoking weed, it slows them down. I do not get more progress. And when I'm dealing with a dude that looks like a basset hound that smells like weed, he is in slow motion. He might think he's fast, but that's just because he's so slow. The world looks like he's moving fast.
I don't know if it's 100% though, because we have a mutual friend, Nicole.
Yes.
That exists in a state of being high, who never stops working.
I think that's the exception.
You know who I mean? The problem is because
that's true. I know exactly who you mean. I had to think about that one for a second.
This is the problem with him. It's like if he doesn't have something to do, he's probably listening right now going, they're talking about me.
Oh, he knows. He knows.
But I agree with you. Like overall, it is not a performance enhancing drug. That's like when one of the snowboarders from the U.S. Olympic team tested positive for pot, and they took his medal away for using a performance enhancing drug. And I'm like, wait a minute. I have never seen somebody's performance in something athletic enhanced from using marijuana. I've seen mental enhancement of certain things, but more slow philosophical yo-bro things.
That's right, Tim. But how much further along would he be if he didn't smoke every day? And it's not every day.
Yeah.
When I have a dude around that's smoking weed, it's every fucking chance he gets. It's not it's not once a day. He didn't smoke weed and come to work.
Is what made it better for us that don't smoke is the fucking vape pens. When you actually usually have to roll a joint or some shit, people did not smoke pot from morning till evening unless they were special in some way. Now that you can just buy a thing and plug it in, like these guys are fucking zonked. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and look at the vape pen stuff. If you have a dude around you with a vape pen, every time you see him, like you scratch your head or wipe, that's how they use that vape pen. That thing is in their mouth more than it's not.
And it was like one of those things that promised something it never delivered, that it would be the way that people would get off, especially nicotine, right? Like to get off of it because you could control it and wean yourself off. And at least I didn't have to smell your stink the same way. Now it's just like freaking mobile e-cancer. is what it is. And I think that it's resulted in more substance use overall than just probably about anything else in the last 10 years.
I think there's a lot coming out saying that it is harmful.
Well,
those things just made it too easy.
Propylene glycol is like the primary thing other than the substance in it. And you're basically heating up a vapor of propylene glycol and continuously inhaling it. Doesn't seem like a good thing.
Yep. Okay. So here's my question for you guys. Going into like the next phase of the year, like what have you decided to do differently after like, I don't know, Q1, Q2 versus what you were doing at the beginning of the year? Anything? Any big changes?
Be more organized and less cluttered, which I say that every year. I mean, you guys need to realize you're halfway through this year already. Like half of the year is about gone. Not you two, everybody else listening.
I'm laughing because Nicole's been in this office. And I promise you it looks exactly like it did the last time you were here.
Yeah. So
papers have changed in text only. Like,
yeah, here's the deal. When we do an event, everything gets pushed into my workspace. I go into my workspace to look for something, can't find it. In 5 minutes, I'm like, this has already cost me too much. So I order one, but I order 4 more. So the next time I can't find it, I can have 4 more. And then they get all put in there, right? So eventually that workspace will be so full that we'll just put a gate across it and we'll just make a new workspace. That's what, I mean, I have 2 other buildings like that. I need somebody to come in that I can work closely with, elbow to elbow, that will manage me. Is really not manage me, but organize my shit. Just follow me around, pick my stuff up and put it back where it should be.
I find if it has a should be, it stays pretty well organized. It's the things that I haven't decided where they should be.
Yeah, I'm never going to do that. I need a person to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am actually really enjoying the fact that I'm working less this year than I have in the past. I have created a thing we now call Fuck Off Fridays, where I don't work on Friday. And when I say I don't work, I mean I don't put out a show and I don't work all day. I still am doing all kinds of things, especially Friday morning. But I spend my Friday afternoons out with my wife. I'm going to keep that. It has enhanced my life. My big goal, I don't know if it's really changed. My big goal is to get this next course out for home food systems on cover cropping. That's become a lot more work. It's one of those things that you crack it open and it just, you keep adding more and more value to it, which will be good long-term. But I mean, I've been doing this 16 years and it works the way that I do it. So
yep.
I'm actually pretty conservative about changing the way I do things. And I like to test things. So like, the Fuck Off Fridays thing, that wasn't a guarantee that was going to stick. It was like, let me do this. Let me see if it works. Let me see if recycling this old content. Let's see what happens to my rankings, my revenue stream and whatever. And when nothing bad happened, okay, now I'm going to keep doing that. So anything I change and this would be true if you ever get the opportunity to take over as like CEO or COO or ops manager of a company, people want to come in and make a big splash right away. Like, you need to be fucking careful when you take a functional operating system and start modifying it. Whether it's a software system as an operational system or it's a business operations system. Yep. And change things a bit at a time and give the time long enough to gauge the response. So I'm pretty conservative about that, actually. I never really thought about it that way, but that is kind of my business philosophy. Be careful what you change one thing at a time and adjust from there.
I've watched you try to implement Fuck Off Fridays for like 3 years.
And I figured out how to do it.
You would always try something else, and then it would either equal more work.
Yeah.
Or I assumed your rankings were going down because next thing I knew, you were back on Fridays.
It was more of that it wasn't actually less work.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So since it wasn't less work and I wasn't getting an equivalent product, in my opinion anyway, then it wasn't worth doing. When I was able to do actual less work, and I've got it now to where what I have to do for Friday is done by about 2:30 on Thursday. Right. And then I'll take the rest of that Thursday and I'll use it for my other projects. And then Friday I'm free and I'll run email and stuff like that, But yeah, it took multiple iterations to figure out how to make it actually work.
Yeah. It was just fun watching you do that because I knew exactly what was going on. I was like, whatever he did isn't working. So he's going to try a different way. And when you did the Friday flashbacks, I was like, this is the one.
Yep. Yep. And it was cool because I realized, like, so I could do this for 10 years and not run out of content. Plus, I'll have 10 new years of content to add to it. Like once I gamed it out on a spreadsheet, I'm like, oh, this can go on perpetually. The other thing that it did, and I've caught up now, but I'll probably do this again, is it allowed me to like actually sit down one day and in like 4 hours do like 12 weeks and have a quarter done, right? And really systematize it. And yeah, I challenge people in your businesses to start thinking that way. Like, I will never build an employee-based business ever again. I don't care for it. I don't want it. So then I have to use technology to begin to extract myself from some of the operational labor components of the business. And if I can't do that, then I am basically a self-employed job person, right? I want the freedom that comes with the business. I want to be able to say, and not just for a standard schedule, but if my wife says next week they're doing something special, I just don't want to take the kids, I want you to go. I want to have a way to be able to do that. Right. And if I had an employee-based business, I would take my number one, right, from Star Trek, number one, fix this shit. Don't fuck it up while I'm gone or I'll kill you when I come back. I don't have one of those. So I have to come up with technological and structural ways to allow that flexibility for myself.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because employees suck. Since
I know nothing about that.
See, I could say it because I don't have any. Contractors do not suck. Structurally installed contractors that work for a piece of what they produce don't suck. Because if they don't produce, I don't pay them. If they produce, the more I pay them, the fucking more I smile.
We've got some really good employees, but I don't consider those people employees. They are some of them would be here if we couldn't pay them, they would still be here. They're good performers. They care about what they're doing. But for the most part, I mean, you guys know my frustrations. I mean, hell, I talk about them all the time, but we do have some really good people.
You do.
Well, John's got the philosophy of, I'd like to make more money. Great. Work extra hours this week. Work as many hours as you want. As long as there's shit that we need to build, you can work.
Yeah, and we've also got dudes that are like, these are the people I want here, no matter if the society collapsed. Yeah, we've got people here that we could still do life with.
I think what soured me on employees is, so before I left and did this full time, one of the companies I was an owner in had about 50 employees, but about 2,500 active contractors at any one time anywhere in the world. And the amount of bullshit that you deal with in something like that just makes it where you don't want it anymore. Like, if you think of like your favorite food in the world right now, if you were locked in a prison cell and you had to eat it 3 times a day for 5 years, you would probably never, no matter how much you like it right now, you'd probably never like it again. Remember, was the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks? Like, crab is some good shit, but when they had their big welcome back party, he had lived on crab for 10 years or whatever with Wilson the Ball. And they had the crab, and it's just a little short scene that you have to pay attention to details to notice, but he's at the end of his welcome home party, and he just stares at this pile of crab legs with this noxious look. That's how I feel about employees. It's not their fault. It's not that they suck. It's not that it's not a good strategy. It's just, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. Joel has a random out of left field question here. How do unpaid internships work? How do people pay their bills?
It depends on the people. People are calibrated differently, right? You always hear people say that they can't do something, yet other dudes that seemingly have nothing are able to do it. Are you willing to live in a tent? Are you willing to live in a U-Haul? Are you willing to live in a shed? Are you willing to live in a tiny house, right? Housing, lodging can be provided. Food can be provided. For instance, I have lunch for all of my employees, and there is generally leftovers if my employees chose to eat those. My wife and I still eat, so if I had a person on the property, we could provide food if we had to. I have dudes that show up here, and after 3 or 4 days, they're like, I can't find a place to live. And I have people who have a place to live before they ever get here. It's just your want, right? Yeah. We have people that show up here and will work for 8 hours and then do nothing for the other 16 hours. And 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, they're like, I'm going back home. I can't find a place to live. And then I have people that show up here and use all day Saturday and Sunday to find a place to live. And miraculously, those people always have a place to live when the other people who had way more money and way more opportunity could not be bothered. It's just your desire and your want and what your threshold is. If you've ever been in prison or jail, your threshold's probably a little bit lower. You've ever been in the military, your threshold to live differently is a little bit lower. How long is that sustainable for you? That depends on what you need and what you have. You know, if you have to move a family here or you're looking to start a family, but people are just calibrated differently. The ones you think that could really come in and hit the ground running and do it, that's never the guy. The guy you think's not going to last, that's always the guy that makes it.
How do people spend $25,000 a year to go to college and not work?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's all a decision-making process. So most internships are not unpaid ones anywhere, not very long. You know, you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 12 weeks generally, and that company's generally taking a pretty good look at you while you do that. And good interns inevitably get offered employment. Even if they don't get offered employment immediately at the end of their internship, when that company needs to hire, the good interns that made it all the way through, they're at the top of the list because, you know, when I used to hire people, like, no matter what your resume said, no matter what your references said, right? Like, if I call John for a reference, I'll take it to the bank every time because I know John. Generally, when you called somebody's reference, you don't know that fucking person, right? And if you're not completely stupid, like if Nicole's my reference, even if I suck, I'm like, hey, Nicole, will you say good shit about me? She's like, yes. Okay, then I'm going to use her. If she says, fuck no, I don't want to be associated with you, you got to be dumb to put her down as a reference. So if I've got an unpaid intern that busted their ass for me for free, and I was impressed with them, I'm already trying to find them a job. So the unpaid internship thing needs to be looked at not as just experience to go on your resume, but as like a long job interview. My niece, who just graduated college, she had to move to Florida because her fiance's in the Air Force. And that's one of the few places he can be stationed with his job. She went there. She took an unpaid internship for a zoo. She interviewed for a job, a full-time job, while she was interning. They said they were going to hire somebody else with more experience. That person backed out. They called her up and said, do you want the job? And she said, well, what do I have to do? They're like, come in and sign the paperwork. She didn't have to interview for it. It was done. It was like, as soon as they didn't have that option, you have the job. And they told her, if we didn't give you this job, we were going to give you a job. Sooner or later, something would have come up and we were going to give you a job. This person just kind of edged you out in this. Then the other thing is, I don't know how many unpaid internships are really left. Like, the government's gotten so involved in that. I think most internships are like paying minimum wage or something.
Yeah, it depends. Like, unpaid internships can be done, and some companies use it as a tool to get free labor.
Yeah.
But you cannot escape when you have somebody in that position realizing that's actually somebody we want on the team.
Yeah.
If you are that kind of hustler, you're that kind of hard worker and know how to fit into a team, it is more common that they're paid poorly.
Yeah.
Here's a little hack that I should probably stop saying this. They're going to change it. You can rent a U-Haul van for $20 a day. It's $20 a day if there's zero mileage. I have a dude that lived here on the property for 90 days in a box van from U-Haul, and it was $20 a day. I have 3 guys that have worked for us that went and got storage containers. We didn't know where they were living. And we never did until the day they got kicked out 6 months or a year later, living in a storage unit. Those dudes, after being kicked out, were valuable enough that I'm like, we'll work something out. But I'm not ever going to provide housing or lodging for a dude that shows up unless he can do it on his own. Because if you do it for them, then there's all kinds of other shit. Somebody said, is Skylo here? Yes, he is. He's one of my best dudes. And in a lot of aspects, he is the best dude at a lot of things. And that's Sky. You've never asked that dude to do anything because I don't have to fucking ask him to do shit. He sees stuff that I'm doing and he's like, why are you doing that? And he does that. Those are the people you want. If you got to make a dude do it, then that's not the dude.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of people too that have come to SRF and met people. I just did a badass interview with this chick. I don't remember her name. Her Instagram is Lamppost Collective. Incredible person. Her and her husband, incredible people. And she met Bear and she is out there moving there now, right now. And it's all net. My point is it's networking, right? I have picked up the phone and literally spoke to Jack and be like, hey, I co-signed this guy. You should have him on the show. That happens. Yeah. Business owners, and we all communicate, and you might not even realize it. You mess up and do something stupid someplace, you're blocked out of everywhere, and you have no idea 1 second of separation how far that spider web goes. It's like mycorrhizal fungi.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's the people that are in those networks. When one person says no, once the network knows, everybody says no. Right.
Yep.
Because there's a value concept there. Like, and the networking thing is huge. Like with these workshops here, I try to use them also to teach my grandchildren. And my grandson's 13 now. He's coming into that age where they need to start thinking differently and growing up. And I'm like, Braylon, do you notice that when we have all these adults here and everybody's bringing something to the table of value? We have no sponges. And if we do, they don't come back. We don't even have to get rid of them. They just because they're not contributing, they don't get out of the thing what everybody else is getting out of the thing. And you maybe get one of those every couple of years or something, or we get occasional weirdos too, huh, Nicole? Just really, yeah.
There may or may not be a shared ban list between the LSN and PFP workshop, and I'm pretty sure it's SRF related as well.
That one. I can confirm there is a shared ban list. And it's a very short list, but it is also a religiously enforced zealot level ban list. Like, oh, sorry. Like, I don't even want to explain it. So it's like, I'm sorry, we didn't get your application to be here. Here's your money back. You didn't make the cut. But you're not sold out yet.
Do not come here. You are not welcome here. You will be prevented from coming here. Yeah.
I'm gonna record John saying that, and if somebody calls me that's on the van list, I'm gonna go, hold on, we have a message from one of our sponsors. It's just gonna be
a lot of when I was on stage, a guy said he wanted to work, and I said show up Monday. A lot of people have asked if he showed up. He did show up. He is still here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. What got me was the one dude. I don't remember even exactly the concept of the question, but it was one of the panels we did when we were there, and you and I were both on it, and he asked you something that was like everybody just looks at you and goes, "Ooh, I guess he needs it." And you were very nice about the way you beat the shit out of him verbally. It was pretty cool. He was like, "If you're working out, you don't have time to think about your shit." And then, he did something with prosthetics and something. He was working with kids, and he was giving them.
Okay. So
what is your problem? Like, you do the greatest thing in the world. You should be telling the world about.
Yeah,
and he came back.
He's lost 100 pounds.
Awesome.
He makes a social media post every day that I constantly see. He was here. He is doing things. Like, I just need one. I need one. Every time we do that, I need one dude to actually do something. There are many times when I go, why am I even messing with this? And every time I say that, or I have a conversation with somebody, it's like the universe just goes, John needs an email. And I get an email from one of those dudes. It's like, hey, I remember when this happened, and I did what you did, and here's the photos, and I'm the guy. And that's what keeps us doing it. That's what keeps us going with it.
I didn't even realize we were replaying that for our free webinar series, but we did. And people were just like watching you talk to him, because people were expecting you to punch him in the nose, basically. And you didn't. You were just like, you're like, I'm going to answer this seriously. And it was really well said.
Yeah, it was brutally honest, but also compassionate.
Yes.
Right. I would say it was brutally honest with a solution, because a lot of the times, one of the problems that the brutally honest person has is they're brutally honest about the problem, but they don't present what the person is really asking for. Like, the person knows they have the problem, or they wouldn't ask fucking him. Like, if you ask him that fucking question, you know what's coming, but you're also expecting, but tell me what to do. And that person may have already known what to do.
We want them to do it. I want these guys to succeed. I want every one of them, but I can't. It's the wireless charging thing. If I'm next to a 50% dude, I can bring him up to 75, but it brings me down to 75. So I have to have some pre-qualifiers in there.
Yeah.
There was 20 guys at this last SRF. We sat in here with dozens of them and did a little incubator. Yeah. And I'm like, look, here's the deal. You guys all want to do some kind of business. It's very close to what we do. I could change your life literally with a couple of emails and text messages, but you have to give me something. And through that weekend, actually, that was a whole week, this last SRF. Through that week, when I saw them, I go, what are your socials? Hey, what's your Instagram? Right. And they hadn't even done that. That's the easiest, freest thing to do. You're done. Like, I can't help you. I cannot be near you any longer.
And I don't mean no. I mean, not now.
Yeah, absolutely. You might surprise me.
Things, right? I can't help you with your business because you don't have one. But that's basically what you're saying. Like, you don't have a social media presence, you don't have a website, you don't have a product for sale, you don't have a policy that I can vouch for, so I don't have anything I can vouch for.
Because my name is everything. When I call Jack or I call Nicole and I go, hey, I need you to put this guy on the show. This guy's worth it. They know 1000% that is never going to go sideways because I never do that. If I vouch, if I co-sign you, then it is guaranteed. You are a performer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've had apps for guests and been like, yeah, I don't know. And then I'll get an email from John. Like, it doesn't happen often. That's also why it works. But hey, I understand so-and-so submitted an app last week and he hasn't heard back from you. He's a good dude. Forward, Spirko, Dorothy at Yahoo, book this guy. Yeah. Right? I don't even check at that point because the advice is always good and it seldom happens. And I know he won't risk his reputation for someone not worth it.
Yeah, and I'll never ask you for a favor either. You're never going to hear, hey, I need a favor.
No. Though if you did, I would take that seriously because it doesn't happen. But the people that do, those are the paydays. So like I got this yesterday from a guy that hooked up with me on Noster, Butte Copper Company, buttecoppercompany.com. He does custom like all copper mugs, like for like what do you call them? The drink, the Russian drink. What's the drink though? You drink in copper?
Mule.
Like mule mugs and stuff. And he sent me this one, in great. Like, will I recommend this dude? Yes, because he has a product.
I just messaged
I'm holding the product. I'm looking at it. I can see it. I can touch it. He has a website. He has a social media presence. He's hustling on Noster. He's building a business on fiat and Bitcoin both. And it's somebody who is in the audience that like went, fuck yeah, I'm going to do something, and went out and did it. And guys, man, I don't think we talk about this enough. Your first business will probably fail. Good, but you just got $100,000 education for the $5,000 in time you put into it. Right? Like, you will know so much more after that first attempt. And it kind of blows you away when you realize what you know. Like right now, I'm teaching my grandson how to start a podcast. And I was like, fucking podcasts are easy. And now I'm like, holy shit. When somebody knows nothing and you're helping them through it, you're like, holy shit. And you're like, so you have to do, then you literally have to go back to like when you were 1 year in the business and stop. Like, that's what you need to get somebody off the ground. If you're teaching them, like, where did you start? And you have to remember that they can't be where you are now. They can't know what you know now. They need to. And I also think people in businesses, like, people want that springboard or whatever. That's natural. But I think too much of it can ruin you. Like when I explain this to my grandson, I'm like, so, I talked to you about when you grow up and you'll have kids of your own one day. A podcast is like that. It's your child. You have to raise it. You have to be its dad. And if I step in, I become the parent to this thing. You have to shape this for yourself, or it won't be what you're capable of creating. And I think that that's something that, like, when you're asking for assistance, you're asking for help, one of the reasons that people that are successful will limit it is we don't want to fuck it up for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we do this. So I've been doing it's monthly, but we skipped a couple months, Accelerator with Tim Cook and Sean Mills, where somebody fills out an application of their business, asks for what, kind of things they're looking for advice on. We put them on live for an hour with us and with other people in the comments giving tips and commitments too. So if they really like an idea, they can say, you know what, I'm a lawyer. I'll just do your business paperwork for you or whatever it is. Those guys who get past the filter to be on an accelerator are the kind of people who will take the advice and do the next step. Mm-hmm. And it makes a huge difference. But it's for that, it's a minimal effort to put it in, and you get so much out of it, like, on their behalf. Like, I'm not trying to get something out of it for me, but except for that, one of my missions in life is to help other people spark something, whatever their thing is. But that's a way to do it without, like, hey, I'm going to run your business for you. Like, because, I've put together the entire system here, run it. And then it's just like,
the problem with that, with everything, is that the person will follow it right up till they disagree. So let them build their own in the first place. That's why, like, even my 12 tenets of modern survivalism ends with what you do matters, right? Adjust, adapt, and make this program work for you. Like, I don't believe in like standardized plans. Like, you can give guidelines, but then that person has to, it's like Legos, right? The picture on the box might have been a space station, but you could build something else with Legos.
Yeah. So her question, Nicole, I hear you're a whole coiner now. How's that feel? To be completely honest, I never think about it. I absolutely never think about it because my attitude towards Bitcoin has always been, it's just over there and I don't mess with it. I just add to it. So I've been a whole coiner for a while. Like the day it got done, I had a dopamine rush, but that was it. So I'm sorry I don't have a more like profound answer, but it's just over there doing what it does.
I just got an email, Nicole. I might have to put you in touch with somebody.
Oh, okay.
It's from Vivor. It says, do you have any friends with a podcast or blog who I can collaborate with?
Yeah, send them over.
All right, I'll introduce
Too
her.
bad they don't have a machine that does this.
Send them to me also, please.
Oh, okay. No problem. No problem. It's amazing what, like, this relationship with Vivor did not start out on the right foot for me.
Oh.
I was offered something and then had it pulled away before it even began. Like, I answered the email that was sent to me that solicited me the day before. But do you know what turned it around? And this is why I think it's very important when you're building a business to keep records of what you do. I made a video that simply showed how much shit I sell. Like screen capture, records, things like that, and sent it back and said, okay, do you want to fucking do this or not? And it was immediate, like, what can we do?
Didn't I put you on? I put you on with Jason's guy, I think.
You did, but what happened is Iris, who now wants to talk to other podcasters,
pulled her head out of her
come
ass.
back by then. Yeah. I was going to take that angle, but she came back after I sent her that video.
Got it.
I thought she was going to suck. She's been fucking fantastic from this point forward. I've got all kinds of shit I have to review. I've got product to review that I've been told, take this, make the video, get it all ready to go, and I'll tell you when it's in stock again.
Joel says, I don't understand cell phone thing, email, etc. I'm not technologically advanced. I still buy stamps. Completely understand it, man. And I say this for other people, not for you. When you say things like that, or I'm a Luddite and I don't understand computers, that's great. You're never going to do business with me. You could send me the most badass thing with my logo, and I'd be like, hey, I'd like to buy 120 of these to start. You and I are never doing business if I have to speak to you and I can't send you an email or a PM. You might have the best thing in the world. You and I aren't never doing business. Like, I don't even open mail that comes in here. If you need to get a hold of me, and people are like, what about I have an attorney with a power of attorney. If somebody really needs to get a hold of me, he already knows about it. Like, I do not, mail's never going to happen. Phone's never going to happen. It's going to be messaging. And you are greatly limiting yourself with that.
I'm as bad or worse than you with it because I don't have suppliers and shit that I might be getting something from that I actually have to talk to. So my phone management goes this way. If you are a contact and you call me, it will ring through. If you are not, straight to voicemail. If your contact has your picture with it, like you're to do, when the phone rings on silent and I hear it vibrate and I look over at it, if I'm not doing anything and I see a picture on the phone, I might pick it up and talk to the person on the other end. If your contact doesn't have a picture, it just keeps ringing till it goes to voicemail, unless I'm bored. I check my voicemail on my phone once a week.
My voicemail's been full for 20 years.
You're worse than me.
I've never left a voicemail for John.
No, I swear you can't. It's not.
I will
it's
admit,
been full.
I've gotten one text message from John one time, the first time I was driving out there.
Yeah.
Because I had admitted that Facebook messaging wouldn't work on my phone. And he was like, are you on the way, sort of thing. And that was it.
That was after hitting Facebook. I guarantee I messaged her on Facebook first,
sure.
and it set unsent. So we tried the other method.
Yeah. I got Facebook fixed on my phone since then. So his messages come through.
I use text messaging so infrequently that my phone moves it off of my home screen and I have to go find it to use it.
Yeah.
I will admit I use text a lot.
Yes, you do, but you didn't check it this morning.
I did, but it was after I found out. I fucked around and found out, right? Like,
there was this voice yesterday I should have listened to. I'm like, Jack always remembers those, so I don't have to remind him.
Well, here we have a first Tuesday on the 7th. everything's fucked up. That doesn't make any sense.
Like we barely made it.
Yeah. It was as
I
far
too,
from
for
the
one
first
brief
as it could
moment,
be.
thought it was last week, and I was like, nope.
Yeah, and then May the 4th landed on a weekend. That's some bullshit.
We have a badass promo going for May the 4th. We've
I
got
don't
Yes,
have
you
to do
do.
anything on May the
Yeah.
4th except post the Prime.
Is that still available, John?
yeah. The secret is we usually let them run another day.
Yeah.
We have like a secret menu and a secret way of doing things, and
if you'd only buy something and join their secret group and get admitted to it, then you'd know the secret.
our
things.
groups,
You know,
our
the
groups.
text
Yeah, our
list.
groups have groups. We've got private groups, and then there's other private groups, and we won't even tell you what the private group name is. You have to, if it's not worth it for you to figure it out, we don't want you there.
Just in case people don't know, now they know. But I'm sure you talk about it.
They won't find it.
Yeah.
I like this. Dean, the NSA thinks I must have gastric distress because my phone is laying on the top of the toilet for about 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Your toilet is bugged. Don't worry.
Well, how else are they going to get to? It's through the
I
water.
wouldn't bug my toilet. I think that's a bad assignment.
So it is said that everything that has come into Walmart since 2000, I believe it was in 2000, has an RFID tag. So they don't actually have to do inventory. They have active inventory scanners as things come in through the warehouse that actually log and track all of that stuff. I would assume that everything that goes into Home Depot, Lowe's, or anywhere else for that matter probably does also. That's when you get close to something and all of a sudden you see targeted marketing, but you never vocalized it. Everything is tracked in some manner, and to include you.
I want to know what the statistic is of people who buy something on Amazon, like say a coffee mug, and then they just hit you with coffee mug ads. Like how many of them buy more coffee mugs at that point? Because when I buy something on Amazon, I'm like, well, now I don't need the stupid whatever that I bought.
So
but I keep getting ads for it.
I don't get tracking. I don't get targeted stuff from Amazon unless I go on to Amazon. Hey, we recommend these things.
Yeah.
But I always get targeted marketing from other things, not Amazon, because I have an Amazon app, but maybe I just don't have them turned on. But in Instagram and in Facebook and everywhere else, I'll even get emails from stuff just randomly that I've never communicated with when I purchased something or had a conversation. I like to use the example. We were talking about my friend Chris Costa. We were talking conspiracy theories that the Titanic wasn't actually the Titanic. And we were having this conversation over lunch. When I got on my computer, on the sidebar, there was this pop-up thing for the Titanic. And I just clicked on it, and it was a Titanic Museum in Gatlinburg. And it's actually quite fascinating. And we actually ended up going there. I bought tickets that day when we saw it. We went that weekend to Gatlinburg to see that Titanic Museum because of that, just over a conversation that was had completely away from the computer.
I do think that some of this can be attributed to brands like retargeting, though. So what will happen is people have this conversation and they will inevitably Google something or whatever related to the conversation and not realize that they had. Sometimes not. I'm sure there are listening things, but this happens a lot. And what will happen is you go onto this website that doesn't even sell anything. It's just informational. Well, retargeting kind of works like Google AdSense, where you can put code on your site and have ads, except what it's actually doing is it's identifying you as being interested in this thing. And then that site owner is paid based on how many people are cookied when they visit their site. Mm-hmm. And then they'll start recirculating ads everywhere. So some of their partners are just basically identifying you as being interested, and some are actually advertising the product. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of sites that you wouldn't think are of that level. You know, they're not Amazon, they're not Facebook, they're not X, whatever. They're part of this retargeting network. And then they're selling data to Facebook and X, et cetera. So
especially if they're using
really going on, because we used to actually put clients onto it when I did marketing.
Yeah, especially if they're using like Amazon web hosting. I think that's just something within there. You might not have paid to get it to work, but it works everywhere that it did pay. Another thing is, like, I do a live every night for about 90 minutes at 9:00, and we will have 40,000 to 60,000 people. When we end the live, if you look at this live, when you end it on YouTube and you look at the numbers, you'll see that number is rather large. And what happens is because of that, it's vertical integration. Anytime I go live, anybody that's interacted with my shorts, it pushes my live into the short feed. And a common question is, how did I get here? What is this? Why am I on this live? Well, they don't realize they have interacted with other content someplace. The other thing that happens is we'll get a lot of people in there just saying silly stuff, young kids, and my moderators will want to ban them. And I'm like, hey, don't ban them. Let them go a few times. Just let them run with this, because what happens is if they're logged in on a fake account, the phone knows what their other accounts are, and anybody that they interact with, even on other platforms, you might be on my YouTube, and then all of a sudden you are going to see my account feed and my posts on Instagram and Facebook, because it all merges through the same device. And we gain audience, a lot of audience. People show up and they're like, hey man, I liked what you were saying last night. I don't know how I got here. I don't know why I'm here. It's because somebody else said something, and it all merges. Anybody they interact with on any platform now sees if you're there, it targets it in. It really does work.
You want to take this question, Jack?
Sure.
How best to pivot to another career and build a client base while needing income to maintain paying bills?
And they want to move from a hospital RN job to acupuncture.
Client-based. Yeah.
Client-based acupuncture. You know, I'm going to go to a John Willis thing here. What are you known at all as an acupuncturist? Does anybody know that you do that? Do you have any public expert? Like, this is just starting a business, right? This is a starting a business question. This isn't changing careers question. A changing careers question would be, how do I go from being employed by a hospital to be employed in an acupuncture clinic? So this has, like, it doesn't matter what you do or what you're going to do. This is following the fundamentals of starting a business, which is establishing a presence, establishing a brand, right? Establishing what your cost of goods or services are as a delivered product and what you have to charge to make enough money to do it. So this is like, how do I start a business? And I don't know that we have time to do how do we start a business, and we have about 10 minutes left here.
Well, who are your clients, right? Go to chiropractors and offer to work out of their office for 4 hours on Monday or 1 day a week. Go to gyms and offer to work out of there. Hit up other acupuncture places. Are they hiring? Go to other acupuncture places and leave flyers on people's cars in the parking lot. I mean, it's just, how bad do you want it? If I took your child, Amy, and said, I'm going to take your child and I'm going to hold this child for 6 months, you better make your business work, or you don't get your child back. You would figure out a way to make that work, right?
Yeah.
It's just how bad do you want it, and what are you willing to do? And that's not an 8-hour job. That is a 16, 18-hour job in the beginning to make that work.
Yeah, and I like that approach.
I want to know what income you need, or what bills you actually need to pay versus want to pay.
Yeah, all people starting business, like, I know you think you need a house. You do not. You can live in the back of that shop. Well, I'm not allowed to. I wasn't allowed to either.
I like John's approach, though, because now you can approach another practitioner that's already got an established business and say, you can add this service, and if people use it, you make money. And if people don't use it, then it costs me my time to be available in these windows, right? Because there are a lot of medical peripheral businesses like that they have a person that's there 1 day a week to do this additional service or this additional thing, because that person's expensive and they only have so much business for them. You see this in automotive, right? Like, if you take, this is one of the downs of owning a diesel. A lot of times you take a diesel and you get work done to it, and they're like, well, our master diesel tech's not here till Thursday. Well, I need fucking brakes, right? Why do I have to wait till Thursday? It's Monday. What? Because that diesel tech gets every bit of business that comes into that shop that's diesel, because they are paying him a rate per job, and he's not coming back if he doesn't get enough work, right? So there is that model. That's a good point, John.
Not only that, will you come to my location, right? Josh on here found our massage therapist from a physical therapy, occupational therapy clinic. And we said, will you come out here? And she did. I can track without a doubt, $2,500 a week that she makes every single week reoccurring from us and people we told to use her, because she was willing to come to us. I would have an acupuncture person. I would use them on a weekly basis if you came here. I use a massage therapist once, if not twice a week. She's here in my property for 3 hours once, if not twice a week. I would definitely use acupuncture. I would use a dietitian. I would use a trainer. I have a trainer. He comes here from Alabama and works out and, modifies our program and such and does some diet stuff for us. But if you're willing to go places, you will have a lot higher end clients. And if you have higher end clients, you don't have to have low end clients. And higher end clients talk. They will tell people. I literally told people, hey, we've got this lady. She is awesome. You should use her. And we also said, I said, hey, you're not charging enough. You need to raise your prices. And she raised her prices 20%. And she said, it's a trip. I raised my prices a year ago. I make a lot more money and I have way better customers.
Definitely.
Jack did that for me with my coffee.
Yeah, that's the first thing I said. I said, what are you doing with your coffee? She told me all the shit she does to make a bag of coffee. And I went, yeah, raise your price at least $2.
And I did. The whole time he's told me that, I'm thinking in my head about why I can't do that. And I said nothing and I nodded and I went home and did it because I was like, you asked something about how do you just put change the number. Yeah, just change the number. And it's funny because I was in a similar place to where Amy was, except for I had already burned the bridge. I had already left the income and I had to figure out how to pay things that I wanted to have, like a house and utilities paid. And I was like, so now's the absolute worst time for this to fail. Screw it. I'll do it because I've just got to make it happen. Yeah. I would say something I've noticed in the health massage ecosystem when I'm seeing people want to set up a separate thing and turn it into their full-time gig. It seems very key to be consistent with what you're offering. So if what you're offering is to go to places like John's Place mobily and do that certain days a week, set yourself up to be able to do that all the time. And if for the first month it is not full, that's what that is. Concentrate on filling that up. If you've got mortgage and utilities and no other bills, get a roommate. Your mortgage just went down.
And what else can you do to make money while you're building this business? Like if you're not working on the business or in the business, what are you doing? Like if you're not delivering DoorDash or Amazon product and you live in an area where you could be and you're sitting at home waiting for a phone call so that you can get more business, what the fuck are you doing? And I know that sounds harsh, but like you're in hustle mode. You pay the bills however you have to. And the beauty of that is as you build that business, you will protect that fucking business, right? Yeah. You will value that business so much. You will not that will be your child that you've raised and you will defend it. And you will always see you have to treat a business like an entity, right? Like a living being. Is what you're doing good for the business? Would you do it to your child, or would you not do it for your? Would you go fuck it? He'll learn to cross the street. No, you wouldn't do that. You'd be like, you need to learn to look both ways, Johnny, and one way twice. You don't get killed, right? So that is how you have to treat your business, and the more you sacrifice for it, the more you will.
Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, you could work all of those in one location when you're not fulfilling other stuff. Yep. And there is an app you can use that will data mine so that you can select the best rated customers out of those. You can be signed up for all of them and then take the one you want. And you can also choose them in direction of sequence. You can also deliver for Amazon. It'll hire you just to do Sunday deliveries. Now you're making six figures as a nurse. A lot of people hear six figures and they think $1 million. Six figures can also mean $100,000, which is not shit if you're a business owner. So where in that six figures? Are you close to $1 million or are you down at the bottom of 100? Now, are you going to make millions as an acupuncture therapist? Absolutely not. You're going to have employees. You're probably going to have to offer other services, in which point you're going to be a destination. That typically means day spa, anesthetician, laser therapy, cryotherapy, a lot of different things, right? You could get with my guy who owns Optimize You and almost every state, and he'd probably do acupuncture 1 or 2 days a week through his clinic. Our massage therapist, for instance, when she leaves here, she goes right next door to my friend who owns a gas station, and she goes from there to my friend that owns a CBD company and hits all these business owners all in the same evening. She also works till midnight every night. I get a text message every time she leaves at midnight. Hey, thanks, got the payment. I'm home safe.
Yeah. So I think actually the bigger question here, Amy, is do you want to change from being a nurse to an acupuncturist? Because I'm not seeing that you want to right now.
I
You
would
need to
say
decide that you want to leave the 6 figures as a nurse and build whatever you want as an acupuncturist.
Yeah.
And then once you've made that decision, you're going to make it happen. I know you will.
my friend's wife is a nurse, a very high dollar nurse, works at a very high end hospital in the Nashville area. She is weaning out of that, and she is in a Sprinter van, and she goes around and does all kinds. She can do all your phlebotomy draws for all your lab stuff. She can do all of your NAD inputs. She can do all of your high dose vitamin C. She's got all these frozen IV bags, and she goes around to all that. What her job now is, she goes around to all these rock stars, these country stars, and all these college or professional athletes, and infuses them with stuff to make them better. And she makes a ton more money. And she's not around sick people.
Your first job as a new business owner, you are the salesperson and the marketing department. Like that's whenever you tell me you want to start a business, then my question is, so do you want to be in sales? Because if you don't want to be in sales, then you either need to hire a salesperson, so you need some kind of seed money, or you need to shut the fuck up and be in sales until you don't have to anymore. Because like what John just said, that person doesn't have to hustle to get business anymore. But I bet people had to hustle their ass off to get into that niche, right? Like you had to be a hustler in the beginning, and the hustler, it's the old thing that the more you sweat in peacetime, the less you bleed in war, right? So you see people that are very successful, and you think, man, they just, they must have had some. Well, what they had was a work ethic that you couldn't keep up with when they were in that beginning. They sweat in that peacetime, and now they're not just bleeding less in war; they're thriving in the war, because everybody, when you're at that level, everybody's out to get you. Right? Yep. It's like the old West thing. The guy was the last thing you wanted to be was known as the fastest gun, because then everybody wanted to fucking shoot you, because then they became the fastest gun. I'm the fucking slowest gun.
It's a lot of networking too. My buddy's the head salesman in Porsche, and he had a client. Hey, what do you do? Hey, I have this van service. He's like, oh, my wife's a nurse. He's like, I'll pay your wife twice as much. She'll work half as much. And what is she doing now? That's what she's doing. I see AJ Harrison says he signed up for Amazon Flex, no availability in sales in my area. You got to make your own sales, buddy. You got to get on the local Facebook groups and go, hey, I am doing this. If you would like to use this service, that's what we see people do. And now we actually have direct contact with these people, and I don't go through the app. I go direct to these people and cut out that middleman a lot of times also.
There's a dude here. He has a $400 dump trailer.
Oh, yeah. Huge money.
He's busy picking shit up for people, because I buy something from Lowe's. It's a $65 delivery fee, and they'll bring it to me next Thursday. Or I can call him up, and he'll charge me the same $50, but he'll go get it right now and bring it to me.
It's the same thing with the trash dumpster we bring in here. They actually sell those in 5s. They stack them up without the wheels. I think he bought 5 of those, puts them on location. He pays those off. I think he pays them off within 6 months, and now he owns those, so it's 100% profit. That same dude that lets you fill up all your stuff, he will haul it away and take it to the dump for you. He also, you need excavator? Oh, you need grading? They do all of that. Yeah. That's how the Diesel brothers started, was doing that.
All right. Well, we're getting towards Jack's turning into a pumpkin time, because he's going live again at 12 today.
12:30. I modified it.
Oh, smart.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, I don't know why he's not vibrating out of that chair right now.
No.
Anyway, so let's go once around the horn. Let's start with you, John Willis.
Guys, I do a live feed every night at 9 o'clock. If you like this conversation, jump on that one. Every night, 9, this YouTube channel. And the conversation is driven by what you guys type out. And there is a lot of value. There is a lot of people in there that can literally give you immediately actionable information. It's 100 of us that are friends every night, and then there's 600 spectators. So become a friend of ours, jump in there, and we do it every night. Super easy to find everywhere. I'm everywhere else under the same name.
Well, Nicole Sauce from the Living Free in Tennessee podcast, and I roast some pretty fantastic coffee. And I've been talking for a while about what might be coming up on the website soon. So I feel like anybody who's already emailed me, you'll be hearing from me today. But we are launching K-Cups, and they are available now. Soft launches today. And we will be doing some fun shorts with Don Gorham over the next little while. Check that out at hollerroast.com. If you've ever been on the road and ended up with a K-Cup in your hotel, you'll understand why we went this route first. So definitely check that out. And Jack, why don't you wrap us up?
I am Jack Spirko, host of the Survival Podcast, soon to be 16 years running this June. And we have covered just about anything you can come up with in all the worlds we were talking about today and many other worlds that we explore. Today at 12:30, I will be doing a live stream on my YouTube channel and other channels. You can find all my upcoming live streams at tspclive.com. Today we're talking about flat top griddle cooking like a pro. So we go out of our way to put a lot of variety into things and teaching life skills, survival skills, homesteading skills, and more. Check us out. You might like us. Again, thesurvivalpodcast.com.
Can I say one last thing real quick? Don Gorham Homestead. Make sure you follow Gorham Homestead on Instagram. Chuck Peoples, who is Homestead Medical here, and Tim Riley. All three were very instrumental in this weekend, and those guys are powerhouses. Make sure that you get in touch with them. I don't know what Tim's doing, but whatever he's doing, it's the wrong thing. He should be doing this other stuff that he did this weekend.
Hopefully he will.
He makes a lot of money doing what he does.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys.